by bringing groups of the community in, it humanizes people that are incarcerated. It creates empathy around the individuals we serve. And, anytime you get to know somebody and their story, and it really changes the conversation, and you get to know some context around somebody's life, you're much more willing to want to help them.
Hello, this is Marco Rock. Welcome to Marco Rock, your host for Inside a Great Mind, where we interview entrepreneurs, game changers, achievers for a purpose to inform and inspire you. Today we're so thrilled for our guest, Jeremy Bouman. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Marco.
It is a pleasure. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So tell us, who is Jeremy Bouman?
So I run an organization called RISE. We run a prison reentry program in Nebraska. I'm a New York native. I grew up in New York City and New Jersey and worked in social services after I graduated college. We've lived here in Nebraska for 11 years. My wife Sarah and I, and our daughter Sophia and our son Luke. Very active in our church, and worked at Creighton University for about 7 years before I left to get really into the prison reform work that we're currently doing here in the state of Nebraska.
That's awesome. So why RISE? What's the purpose of it?
The purpose of RISE is that we found that a lot of people who are struggling when they get out of prison, one of the main reasons is they don't have employment. So 89% of people that reoffend don't have a job at the time they reoffend. 1 in 3 Nebraskans go back to prison within 3 years of reentry. And that's just not good enough. We have a very overcrowded prison system in the state. We're at about 170% capacity in our prisons.
You said 170% capacity?
170% capacity. There's staffing shortages, and that creates a lot of challenges, but also an opportunity to bring in a program that does really intensive pre-release readiness. So our program is 6 months. Our participants are working on character development, job readiness, and entrepreneurship. And all of these things are to give them tools and a plan to increase the likelihood of their success when they come back to our communities in our state. And employment is just such a big part of that. So giving them opportunities to prepare for employment, working with employers in the state, and trying to match this hidden workforce with the employment needs we have in our state with such low unemployment.
Correct.
Is a space that we really excel at playing matchmaker between folks reentering and businesses looking for workforce. And when it's not a silver bullet, but employment really improves the likelihood that you're going to be able to stay out of prison and not have to go back to old ways of making money. And with the responsibilities you have coming back to the community, just a lot of good things begin happening if you're able to work and begin generating wealth for yourself and your family, reconnecting with family, reconnecting with the community, public safety improves, and recidivism goes down.
Pretty much there's a lot of benefit to what you guys do. Do the program focus just in prison? What are the services? I want to know more.
Yeah, we have a real inside-out program, and so we do have this pre-release program, like I said, 6 months, very intensive. They graduate the program with a certificate in career readiness from the University of Nebraska Omaha's Business School, and that's something they have for their portfolio when they do come out and look for jobs. They create a 20-page reentry plan while they're in the program pre-release. And then we help people implement that plan with our reentry specialists post-release. So that bridge of helping the reentry process before they get out and when they return is very unique. The opportunity to help individuals make that transition and continue to come alongside them when they get out is just a huge component of our program and the support that we provide our graduates of our in-prison program when they come back home.
So what are the direct challenges some of your clients face today? when they get out?
Well, they face a lot of challenges. There's 800 organizations and industries that just will not hire people that have felony backgrounds. They cannot access some of the public services that are available to reentering citizens. They struggle with housing. Many people in our system have mental health issues that they're having to continue to deal with when they get out. Substance abuse issues, often trying to reconnect with family or going back to the community where it may have been an unhealthy environment for them. So the challenges people face in reentry are kind of deep and wide. And there's a need for this holistic approach to really make sure that we're looking at housing, we're looking at employment, we're looking at transportation and food and their mental health and challenges around substance abuse. And so we really kind of are able to diagnose what those needs are and help them implement a plan with the work we do and with community partners to just increase the likelihood of their success when they get out.
How can companies support the work that you guys are doing here at RISE?
By hiring people with felony backgrounds, by thinking about their hiring practices and being open-minded to hiring people that are coming out of prison. They're going to get people that work really hard, that are prepared for those jobs, that are really going to value that second chance that they get. And with the 3.1% unemployment rate, I think companies are really trying to figure out how to keep their business in the state and how to meet the workforce demands they have. So they can help by thinking about their hiring practices and bringing this population into their organizations where they do have opportunities where there's a minimal skill set that's required to do the job that returning citizens have. And providing that second chance really is life-changing. It's transformational for that individual, for their family, and that changes communities. And so we also educate employers around some of the federal incentives that they can access for second chance hiring. There's a federal bonding program, there's tax credits, there is funding they can access if they provide a certain level of skilled training. And so we help them navigate that where there are these federal incentives to do second chance hiring. And a lot of companies don't know about those, and so through education and then saying if we're going to go down this road and hire somebody with a felony background, having somebody come out of a rigorous program where they have support from an organization to come alongside that individual is very intriguing to businesses. So if they are having any workforce challenges, they know that there's a team of people that are a part of that person's reentry plan and success. And that's kind of that RISE difference that we make.
How can people get involved with the work that you guys doing here?
One of the things that we do that's really unique is we bring groups of volunteers into the state prisons that we serve to do volunteering around coaching resumes, helping people with personal statements, so how they talk about their incarceration and job interviews, business ideation. So we have opportunities for companies to send groups of their employees in and just community members. And that does a couple things. One, we're preparing people to re-enter well and to be successful when they come home. But we also need to get the community ready to welcome them home.
Exactly.
And if we don't do that piece of it, the opportunities won't be there, and they're going to have to continue to struggle to figure out ways to support their family. And by bringing groups of the community in, it humanizes people that are incarcerated. It creates empathy around the individuals we serve. And anytime you get to know somebody and their story, and it really changes the conversation, and you get to know some context around somebody's life, you're much more willing to want to help them and hire them or make a phone call on their behalf. And so we've brought 600 people at this point in 3 years into our facilities that we serve to do these coaching days. They can come in and judge a Shark Tank style pitch competition, which we do at the end of the program, which you have done. And that gives so much hope and confidence to people who are just often forgotten not thought about, who's, may not have had a visit for any significant period of time. And so, the community coming in and saying, we haven't forgotten about you and we see you and we care about you, is, providing hope, which is something that can be in short supply in prisons. And that hope really helps people see that they can have a future when they get out. It's a mindset change. It's a growth mindset. I can be successful. There might be opportunities that I never thought I had access to. And they take their reentry very seriously, and we make sure that then we make good on our part, and we're there to support them when they do come home.
What about somebody who may say, well, I would like to get involved, but I'm kind of scared going to the prison to serve your client. How can you reassure somebody like that?
Never had an issue in doing this work. There's actually just kind of a known code in prisons across the country that people that are coming in voluntarily from the community are never to be touched, never to be engaged in a negative way. There's so much gratitude for people that come in for the community. So the volunteers are typically the safest people in the facility.
Okay.
So it's very safe, and you're just going to meet a lot of people that are grateful you're there, that have deep gratitude, that need just practice with social skills and connecting. And there's a lot of just kind of beautiful relationship that comes out of the community meeting folks that are incarcerated and making those connections. And so I think people have profound experiences where we often hear volunteers say, they got a lot out of that, I got a lot more out of that. It really touched me deeply, and it changed my perceptions, and I care deeply about these individuals that I got to meet. And that's how we change the narrative, because we have so much social stigma around people that have served time, where we continue to remind them of their crime once they've served their time and they come back, because we continue to use phrases like felon or criminal, and we bar people from employment, we bar people from housing. We don't let them move on from that worst day of their life, and that really doesn't allow them to get traction. And it's a win-win for the community and for that individual if we support them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What is the major impact or successful story of a client you can share with us?
Sure. So we've had 315 graduates now of our in-prison program, and that's folks that have worn a cap and gown and gotten that UNO certificate and went through that 6-month program. We have 75 that are now back in the community that are out. 90% are employed today. We've had some parole violations, a handful of parole violations, but there's been no new charges of any of our graduates. And so, at least in the short term that we've been doing this, we're seeing that the program's working. And when we talk about some of the victories that we have with our population, it's that we serve, it's things like somebody figuring out the bus route and getting to a job interview, and finding out that through our employment efforts, somebody's been able to get a job, or somebody's been able to reconnect with their family. And we have lots of stories like that where folks are getting up on their feet, and they're beginning to work, and they're beginning to put some money away and get custody of their children, or at least the ability to have visitation with children, reconciling with family, and just kind of being able to put that experience and part of their life in the past, and know that there's so much more life to live, there's so much more in front of them. And I'm grateful that I don't have to wake up every day and think about the worst things I've done and carry that around with me, and have everybody kind of thinking about that and judging me. And so the folks that we do have back that are out, that are doing well, it's really this kind of simple stuff, that they're getting up and getting a paycheck, and that they're kind of doing some of just mundane day-to-day things that I know that I get to experience in my life. We do have people that struggle though. It's not all It's not all successes because we're all human, and there's challenges around addiction, and there's challenges with parole, and different parts of this can be very messy. But at the end of the day, our graduates know that we're there for them. We have an alumni association of peers that support one another that get together every month. And so we're building a healthy reentry community for them to engage with, where they help each other and hold each other accountable. When they get together, I always want to do kind of fun things, but they want to serve. So they did a Habitat for Humanity build a few weeks ago, and they are supporting each other as they're all kind of continuing to work through their own reentry, and that's kind of a beautiful thing.
Definitely. If Jeremy Bouman has a power to make one positive change in the world, what would that be?
I would close every prison in America. I just don't believe they work. I think they create more trauma than people have when they enter them. It's punitive, it's not rehabilitative. Nobody doesn't commit a crime because they're afraid of potentially being incarcerated. It's just not in the thought process. I think we'll look back sometime and really look at this as a black eye on our country's history, that we've incarcerated so many people, and it's a human rights issue, it's a social justice issue. So if I had the magic wand, I would help people with mental health on the front end before they get into the system. Help people with addictions, help people with preventative things that would keep them from winding up incarcerated, where there's just not a lot of hope, there's not a lot of opportunity to be rehabilitated and come out the other side stronger. If anything, it creates more barriers and challenges and isolates people, and is just, philosophically, I think it's wrong. But that's a system that we work within today.
Yes.
And so our efforts to rehabilitate and help people through that journey, and then support them when they get out, is kind of, I think, an act of humanity and compassion that we're called to do.
What will be your last word to my audience?
Come to prison with RISE. I think it'll be life-changing to engage with our builders. We call our program Participants Builders. We have business coaching days where you can come in and coach on resumes, personal statements, do mock interviewing, come and judge one of our Shark Tank style pitch competitions, and just engage with this issue. Learn about the challenges we face in our state around recidivism and reentry and our criminal justice system. And this is a really powerful way to kind of put a face and a name to this issue through working with our builders. And so please come to prison. We'd love to have you, and I think it'll definitely change their life, and it will probably change yours too.
Jeremy, thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.